Good morning, everybody. This is Professional Care Workers Week 2024, our first day of webinars and second webinar of the day about the future of AI in social care. With me this morning, I have an amazing panel of speakers with great experience in this area. And I'd like to start with Daniel Casson from Casson Consulting. Then we've got Dr. Caroline Emma Green. Sorry, Caroline.
Green is enough.
From Oxford University, Alex Joseph, who's a care worker and who's been working on the guidance for AI in social care. Katie Thorne from Digital Social Care. Alia Mufti from Arcadia Care Homes, and James Marniot from Access Social Care. So we have quite a lot of things to discuss, a lot going on in the area of AI. Caroline, could you start us off and tell us a bit about the guidance that's been written, co-written with care workers, and just give us some information on that, please.
Yeah, sure. So maybe as a bit of background for people who don't know the work that we're currently doing across the sector, this work started earlier this year following something that we call the Oxford Statement on the Responsible Use of Generative AI in Social Care. And it's become a collaboration since we published that statement late in February following a first roundtable with some sector representatives. And Carolina, you were present then. And from that statement onwards, we decided to work together with different stakeholders and people within social care, and of course at the forefront also frontline care workers, to define what responsibly using AI and specifically generative AI, so tools like ChatGPT and so on, what that means for social care services. So today what's being launched is a specific statement that was written by care workers. And it specifically also provides some guidance and some statements of expectations on the use of AI in adult social care services. And the background to this is that around nearly 25 frontline care workers came together at Oxford on the 17th of May, 2024. We had a whole day where we first of all discussed what is AI, what's generative AI, and how are people already using it or not using it? What are care workers' needs around it? What are their concerns, and what are they excited about? And following from that discussion, the care workers came up with various needs and expectations that they have towards their employers, towards the developers of AI, specifically products for social care, but also local authorities and regulators like the Care Quality Commission here in England. They also speak in the statement, which I really encourage everybody to read. They state what the current role of being a frontline care worker actually means to them, how much pressure people are under, and what kind of benefits AI can give frontline care workers in their work. But I think the expectations are really important here because they put the voice of the frontline care workers in the middle of this very important trajectory that we are just going on to define the responsible use of AI. And it says here that employers, for example, really need to make sure they know what they're doing. If they're expecting their staff to use this technology, they need to tell them how to do it. They need to give them the phones and iPads and so on for it. So I think it's a really powerful statement on their side. But then it also gives some guidance to peers before starting to use any type of Gen AI at their workplace. So again, the statement is all about own experience. It's putting the frontline care workers in the middle of this development. And we hope that it's useful. And it's definitely going to be one part of the puzzle that we're building on at the moment to, from a broad scale, define what the responsible use of AI in social care looks like.
Thank you very much, Caroline. And Alex, as a care worker, you've been involved. You were there with us helping write this guidance. You've had a chance to feedback. How did you find it? Do you think it's important? And what are your hopes around the whole use of AI in social care?
Yeah, basically, when I came for that conference, actually, it was very beneficial, to be frank. And we discussed a lot of things. So one of the major concern was actually from the discussion, it was clear that only few people were using artificial intelligence in health and social care, so as part of their work. So I think I can say that the majority was having a major concern that, so if we are introducing the artificial intelligence to the health and social care sector, so they were afraid that whether it is going to affect their job in the sense like the availability of the jobs. So they were, but I will say that it is not going to happen, because from the scientific studies, and if you are just comparing the, like if you are comparing our world like 50 years back and just now, so it is clear that like the advanced technologies are always giving up a lots of opportunities. So basically the thing is that like if you are comparing to like 100 years back, there was no motor vehicles or anything. So after the invention of the motor vehicles, see, the thing is that there are lots of opportunities are there, and lots of drivers are there, and lots of mechanics are there, and lots of opportunities are there. So the thing is that, see, basically we can see, basically the thing is that we can classify the the them into two, in the two categories. So AI can create more opportunities, and AI can take off a lot of people from the opportunities as well. So of course, if we are adapting the new technologies, if we are learning the new technologies, of course, lots of opportunities are building in that. But if we are not adapting the new technology, if we are not learning the new technologies, of course, definitely a lots of people are going to lose their job. It's all about the adapting that system, and adapting, learning the system. So for that we need a lot of training. So it is the responsibility of the employer, I believe, that to provide sufficient training. And also there was a concern regarding the GDPR. So of course we know that the artificial intelligence, actually it's in their early stage, so a lots of trial and errors are going. And also make sure that most of the AI tools, it always says that it's not 100% sure, because it's in the early stages. So it is our responsibility to make them in a wise way, and also to get maximum productivity from that. And yeah, just that's it.
Thank you very much, Alex, and thank you for all of your input into that. You mentioned GDPR, and I remember when we had the roundtable at the end of May,
Yes.
so many care workers mentioning worries about their personal liability,
Yes.
about actually protection of personal data as well. So it was very interesting to hear for how many people that was a concern.
Yes.
So it isn't just about training care workers, think about so many other things than that. And I think we wouldn't have had the guidance in the place that it is, Caroline, would we, if it wasn't for the input from care workers. Right. I'd like to ask whether you are using AI in your day-to-day job or life at all. And if not, why? And if yes, what impact, what use does it have for you? And Ali, could you start, please?
Yeah, so the greatest gift AI gives us is time. And I think in our sector, I'm a big advocate for giving back time to the people, and making the role more efficient, giving more time for care workers to be with residents, and not having this double burden of, you know, person-to-person care as well as the due diligence behind. And there's very, very simple tools that ChatGPT especially can give to a provider, and I especially mean smaller providers who may not have the big teams behind them. And a lot of this is what I do day to day, or what I've used ChatGPT for. Things like even legislation advice, regs advice. ChatGPT has full access to every CARE Act, the European Convention of Human Rights, every CQC, CIW Care Inspectorate reg there is. And in an instant, you can ask it about a specific concern you may have, a specific worry or dispute you may have, and it will cross-reference that with the legislation for you. Obviously, don't take full legal advice from something like AI, but it's there as an immediate support mechanism in those regards. Policy writing, again, if you picked up on something, you're missing a certain policy, it will write you out a template in a matter of seconds if you ask it to. Data analysis is my day-to-day use for it. I think, with digital care recording that we have today, data should be available to everybody in every care home, and ChatGPT is a wonderful tool to analyze that data, to tell you how falls are going, whether you're seeing an increase or a decrease, to find a causal link to that, to produce graphs and things so you can actually have a visual for it, and then you can adapt your thinking to it, whether you need to increase staffing, whether there's a specific issue at a certain time of the day. It's things that are there that a human being may not pick up, because again, especially small providers, they wouldn't have the time to fully immerse themselves in that data. And also ChatGPT can inspire you with ideas, maybe activities or events that are coming up for residents that you may not be aware of. And again, I go back to smaller providers who may not have that hospitality team or an activities coordinator dedicated to it. It can really save you a lot of time in trying to find out what's coming up, whether it's something like Burns Night that you may not be fully aware of, whether it's new innovative activity ideas for people with dementia. And you can teach it things. There might be a certain way you do payroll, and you can teach the ChatGPT in the exact same way you can teach a new payroll assistant how to do that. You can feed it the information, feed it the samples of the spreadsheet and how you work, and it will do it exactly the way you do it. And again, it's like training a human being. So they're very simple uses that I think everybody can and should use it for, especially for £20 a month. It's a wonderful tool to have. The other thing that's knocking on the door, and this is especially for care workers, and I think it will be mainstream in the next couple of years, is the use of AI chat assistants. So we've all been on a website of a retail store that has had the chatbot pop up and ask us if we need any help. It's the same principle, except our care workers are effectively the customer. The chat assistant will be fed with all the information about residents, about the home, the building. It'll have all the policies, statement of purposes, everything will be there updated to it. It'll have access to our care planning software, and a care worker can literally speak to it like text to ask it questions without having to sift through data. Even as convenient as the digitized records are, this takes it another step further, where you can simply open the handset, say, what time is Mrs. Smith's medication due, or how do you administer this medication? How has Mr. Jones been lately? And it will give you an immediate snapshot or the information that you need. Again, very much in a conversational tone, which is how we communicate as humans, and we all do it through WhatsApp and things. But again, it goes back to that gift of time. It's just speed, it's instant, it's for the most part accurate, and it's a support network for a care worker. It's almost like having that buddy with them that they can turn to at any moment of the day. So that's what I think is coming. It's certainly knocking on the door now. There are companies at it, and it's a very simple tool to transfer over from retail into social care. But certainly ChatGPT, with the use cases outlined, is something everybody can do today, and it saves you an enormous amount of time, which I think is, in our world, I think it's the thing we should be chasing the most, is that efficiency.
Thank you, Ali. James, over to you.
Yeah, so I think AI is really interesting as we look at it today. I think there are so many different opportunities to use it, and it's about from the very simple to the far more complex and integrated. So from creating a basic formula for Excel to help you out when you're trying to look at a particular data set, for example, it has the ability to do that. But its power really comes from when you can apply multiple data sets and look and interrogate data in multiple data sets. And I think certainly the challenge that we have and the way in which we begin to think about how we use it is really around how do we keep that data secure that we're wanting to put into it. So we're currently working very much on kind of private based AI algorithms. So actually all of your data is kept private, but you still have the benefits of AI, which allows you to keep that secure. So, and I think there's just, for me, there's pieces around users want that level of security, but business owners equally need that knowledge that this is secure, whether that's company secure, permissions aligned, or personally private to that particular individual. I think they're some of the key things, and that comes through the education and also the deployment of the technology. Obviously, as a technology business, we're using AI in multiple ways, whether that's around how we do our marketing, how we create some content that's developed, how we do proofreading and ensure content is sufficient and up to date. It has all of those abilities. But and I think from a generic perspective, you can very much look at those benefits, whether it's creating a letter, etc. But as soon as you begin to want to pull things like policies are great if they're a generic policy that sits for everybody. But if it's a company specific policy, how do you pull that policy through? And how do you ensure that it's then private to that individual that's researching that particular policy? And equally with you've got residence data or payroll data, etc. It's great to have that fed into an AI engine, but that needs to be secure and it needs to be permissions aligned. That not everybody needs to see everybody else's payroll data. Equally, from a residence data perspective, it's how do you keep that secure and how do we surface it in the right way? And as I think it was Caroline was saying at the beginning, it needs education is key. And how do we keep that and make it complementary to the care worker or the care provider? So this actually enhances, drives efficiencies, whether that be time or cost efficiencies within the business. So I think there's so many user cases. What we need to do is really distill down what are the key user cases and how do we deliver it in a really secure way, and ensure that the users have that ability and business owners can be confident in its use.
Thanks a lot, James. Very helpful. Daniel?
Yeah, I was hoping James would come in after Ali, because I know working with James on some of the stuff that's coming out at the moment, it's incredible to see how it can make people's lives better. But what's interesting, going back to what Caroline said as well, the Oxford statement on the responsible use of AI is fascinating, because we're working with the care workers, but they're not isolated. We're also working with the care provider organisation and the tech providers to make them all responsible, because this is a joint effort. Because the power of AI is just immense. I mean, I use it for various things, like James has said, for creativity, for using the Excel for getting the right formulas. But I also fit it into the wider what's happening in wider government at the moment, where they were actually looking to actually prolong people's well-being. So one of the government's in the recent reporting, the government's recent policies is from sickness to prevention, and the potential for AI to be analysing people's and population past well-being is immense for what we can actually create. So I'm trying to think. There's some ways I'm looking at it at the moment. Say, how can we actually predict how people are going to be presenting, so we can prolong well-being, and that's for care workers and for people that we're caring for as well. So I think we have that creativity, for me, still needs to be in there a bit more, and we need to be talking to. This is where it's interesting, where care workers talking to tech providers who have some of the technical knowledge and combining that more and more with practically and pragmatically on the ground, what can be used. We can look at analysing, for example, analysing speech and unsaid things that aren't said explicitly can be analysed by the AI to actually bring forward underlying issues in what a person's saying. And that's one thing I'd like to see develop at the moment. So I'm very much looking forward, but taking what Ali and James and Alex have said and actually saying, how can we create a better system using this? Because we're doing individual bits, but how do we bring that all together? So I'm not quite there yet. So I want people's input in how we create that all-round system, and then do what Ali does, create the time to care. So we're still on that journey.
Thank you, Daniel. And Katie?
Yeah, thank you. There's sort of agree with what everybody said, so I'm just going to try and add some things which haven't already been mentioned, but apologies if I duplicate what's been said. I guess first of all, I'd say yes, I do use AI personally, pretty much every day. Variety of ChatGPT for sort of drafting up emails, for searching things, for lots of. It's just an incredibly useful tool. We're also, Daniel mentioned, we've got sort of a care provider working group, sort of asking how care homes and home care providers have been using AI already. And sort of some of the early findings that were coming from that is there's sort of 3 broad sort of themes of how we're seeing AI being used in the sector. And so you've got one area which is sort of looking very specifically at care delivery and maybe some of the more established forms of artificial intelligence as part of that. So you've got especially a lot of assistive technology or monitoring technologies, acoustic monitoring, software like PainCheck, for example, with facial expression monitoring, which are used as tools day to day to sort of support care workers, but are generally sort of put in place by the organization operationally. We then sort of have an area which we're kind of calling back office functionality. It's not a very good name right now, so if anyone has any tips on how we can better name that, that would be great. But this is some of the things that Ali was mentioning around sort of streamlining administrative processes, really thinking about how you're looking at legislation and regulation and using an AI as a tool to get through really complicated, really long documents in a reasonable amount of time. Policy development. I will also caveat, I know it's already been said, but we see people using it to generate a policy document as a template and then reviewing it, making sure it actually makes sense and all of that. You don't want, you know, ChatGPT to just say, oh yeah, this is the fire prevention policy and nobody's reading that, right? And then the sort of more like fun and creative area, which is sort of direct engagement with people who are being supported in care services and being used more by frontline care workers as well for like image generation. We see being used more and more and sort of like using image prompts, creating videos, using it as part of games and activities as well, which is also something that I use in my personal life. We have, you know, very boring Dungeons and Dragons game, which because I'm a nerd, but we all have done it for character creation, and we're seeing people in care services using that as well. So I think there are so many different opportunities and so many different use cases. And as part of the work that we've all been doing, I think we're really keen to sort of continue to collect these case studies and to share them, sort of talk about the opportunities and the risks and like the ways that the sector can be sort of really embracing innovative technology. I think some of the ones which I'm most excited by are definitely some of the dashboarding opportunities. We have more and more data we're expected to work with every single day in social care, moving to digital care records or electronic medication systems. It's helped because we don't have to look at paper records so much, but you just have such vast quantities of data all of the time and you don't necessarily have the time to look at it. So when you can just use an AI prompt to say, oh, can you create me, you know, a dashboard, create me a chart which shows all of the falls up to the last 12 months. And you can just interact it with it in that way rather than having to navigate to a specific form, which you know is somewhere in the software, but you only have 2 minutes and you're on a call and you can't find it. I think that's going to be a real game changer for us in the sector. And it's something as well, which means that not everybody's going to have to go and do full data analyst training, become qualified at a sort of like data science to be able to work in care. That's not generally speaking what people in care want to be in the sector. So I'm quite excited about some of these opportunities.
Lovely, thank you, Katie. And Alex, do you want to share whether or not you're using AI in personal or work life? Sorry, Alex, you're on mute.
Sorry for that. Basically, yes, I am using few AI tools in my workplace as well as in my personal life as well. So coming to the workplace, actually, I think that is more concerned thing, and that's the thing that we need to be discussed here, right? So basically, actually, I'm working as a team lead. So because of that, I have to working on the care plans, doing the audits, then working on the MCAs and all those things. So basically, AIs are playing a vital roles in my life. I can say that. So for doing the care plans and everything, of course, I'm using the ChatGPT. But there are specified AI tools apart from ChatGPT for for each purpose. So actually, I would like to say, introduce few of the AI tools that I'm using in my workplace. So the one of them is Stepify.tech. So that one, actually, the thing is that it's like, so if we get a video or anything, so basically the thing is that, of course, for the general knowledge, and if we need to know about something, of course, we are going to the YouTube, right? So the YouTube videos are like, sometimes it can be like 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hour, or whatever it may be. So if you go to this website and if you just copy paste the what the link of that particular video, so in fraction of second you will get the content, and it is like we'll get the idea of that entire 2 hour, 3 hour, or whatever it may be in just 3-minute reading. So they will be just minimizing all the informations just for like 3 minutes. So that is a good thing. That's an amazing AI tool that I'm using in my day-to-day life, especially in the work. So the other one is like, it's napkin.ai. So that one is like for whenever I'm going for some sort of presentations and the meetings, and also of course we need to do the presentations, like, and so this tool we just need to give them some sort of information, what is the topic and what all things we are going to discuss. So it will generate the presentation for you. So it includes everything, all the text, images, graphs, everything. And the specialty of this particular AI tool is, so we can edit it according to our our idea. So we can clearly say that it's not fully AI. So we are also adding our own input. So we can use our own ideas and our own creativity on these things. So this one is very helpful, especially on the few of the topics that we will not be having any idea. We will be having zero knowledge. So, but once we get some grassroots knowledge or anything, definitely we can develop from that. So in that situation, I'm using this particular AI tool to enhance my work life. So the other one, actually, I think you might be aware of this thing. It's like Norton.gen. So it's one of the famous cybersecurity companies. So it will help us to detect all the scam emails and the messages, everything. So see, the thing is that if you have received an email or anything, if we think that it's a scam, and if we are doubting whether it is a scam or a genuine one, we can just take the screenshot of that and just ask this one, and it will tell you that whether it's a scam one, and it can also tell you why it is a scam. And so these are the thing apart from, so whenever, actually the thing is that even when I came for that conference, so whenever we are talking about the artificial intelligence, people are just generalizing it as just ChatGPT. So it's not just the ChatGPT, there are things, but still, to be frank, whenever we are visiting all these websites, it is clearly written that it's not 100%. So as I mentioned in the beginning of this session, so it's the time for the trial and error. So I hope that one day everything will be rectified, and according to our GDPR rules and regulations, it will be working, and it is going to be very beneficial, and the artificial AI is going to make all our life very easy, and also it may create more opportunities. That's it.
Thanks a lot, Alex. I was just about to say this is not a promotional video for ChatGPT.
No.
Other AI systems available. So you stepped in at just the right time, mentioning all the well, not all, some of the other ones, and it would be very helpful.
Basically the thing is that these things are helping me a lot of things. There are a lot of things. So basically the thing is that what I am using in my common life, in my work life, that I just introduced. So
Lovely, thank you. It would be very helpful if you could share that list with us, and then we'll make sure that once we publish the video, we can include links, and that goes for all of you panelists. Any links to any useful AI that you're using would be very helpful. I think the important
and
point.
also I would like to share about, actually the thing is that most of the people are unaware of how to use it. So basically the thing is that if we don't know the things, and if we are randomly sharing all the details, it is a hazard. So the thing is that people who are using this, they need, especially the beginners, they should need proper training. Without the proper training, it is going to, they can mess the things. So I would like to add this point as well. So
Lovely. Thank you, Alex. And a very important point, like Karen mentioned, the guidance that co-workers, including you, Alex, drafted was very much about if we're doing it or if we're asked to do it within a working environment, we need to be supported to know how to use it, to have devices to use it, to know that we are doing it safely, to protect both people that we support, but also ourselves and the organization. Yes, and I think one thing that some of you have already mentioned is the whole idea of looking at whatever output of whichever AI you are using, not as an end product, but something that you still need to review with your other organizational policies, sometimes with just common sense, because there are some very interesting things that stump an AI. Recently, and I watched a video that asking an AI how many R's in strawberry is like a very big, it crashes, it can't give you the right answer. Various reasons behind it, mainly that it's a statistical tool more than anything else. Right. Over to the next question. And we talked about what kind of AI uses we see in everyday life. I would like to look into the future. Guidances being written, published today for co-workers, etc. I'm sure we'll be asking the government to take some action on this as well. So going forward for the future, what are your hopes? What are your concerns? And if you have any asks for the new recently selected government in this area as well. And James, could you start, please?
Yeah, absolutely. I think when we look at the biggest value that any care organization has is its data. And it's the biggest, most untapped asset that's available to a care provider today. I think 52% of UK organizations don't have the resources or the capability to truly use and drive the value from the data they've got. So I think the ability to use AI in order to help support that is key. And I think that's a compelling event, because if we look at the amount of data in the world, it's doubling every 3 years at the current rate. So if you haven't got a handle on your data today, in 2 years' time, you're going to have an even bigger problem. So actually the ability to begin to use AI to do that. And I think for me, when I look at it and we look at technology-enabled care coming into the industry, we look at the different care planning, rostering systems, policies, compliance tools, etc. Actually, the value comes, as I was talking earlier on, really about overlaying those multiple data sets to say, okay, how do I interrogate it to find out something that I didn't know before, that it historically would have taken a BI expert or some data scientists, that typically care organizations aren't set up to have those kind of capabilities, certainly not within the smaller ones. So being able to use AI in a way that can surface that data, that gives you a level of actionable insight, that allows you to change and improve the way in which care is delivered, pulling all of that data through, I think is a huge opportunity if we do it in the right way. And I think for me, I keep coming back to the same thing, which is we have to be able to do that in the right way. And I think that then leads back to, if you were going to ask the government what is it they should be doing, they should be publishing really clear guidance, supported by Caroline, hopefully, and in the statements and things she's written, but also government needs to be giving us clear guidance. But as a technology provider and technology providers overall, we need to be engaging with care providers and those that are creating those statements to ensure that we're doing it in the right way, but equally we're adding the value in the right places. So it's very easy for a technology provider to say you can do all of this, but actually there's only a small proportion of that really is going to add value in the short term and is addressing the key challenges that care providers have. So for me, the ask of government is guidance. and to take input from those that have gathered guidance from particular sectors, because I think all sectors will vary slightly and we need to be very conscious of that, as well as generic guidance. But a massive opportunity to really drive value from the data organizations have, and help drive efficiencies and complement carers to get that time, which I think it was Ali that mentioned is just critical. If we can free up any amount of time through driving some efficiencies around use and insight and deliver more personalized care in that way, then we will be certainly utilizing the fact that AI really is a moment in time. The technological advances that we have throughout our careers, lifetimes, etc., and there are some generational shifts, and AI is one of those generational shifts. It's just how do we don't run before we can walk. We need to make sure that we use it in the right way, and if we do that, it can have huge benefits.
Brilliant, James. Thank you very much. Katie?
Thank you. So, I mean, I talked a little bit, I guess, about some of my hopes for AI. I do think it's going to be an incredibly innovative tool for the sector. We're already seeing that, you know, how Ali and Alex have already talked about how they're using AI and sort of the benefits it's having. And I sort of hope that we see that more broadly across the sector. In terms of concerns, you know, I think whenever you have any major technological shift, you know, when the printing press came in, we had the rise of the internet, you know, any one of these things, the reality is that it significantly changes the way that people's jobs work. And I don't think we have a good enough sense yet about sort of exactly what impact AI will have on jobs. Will some people end up having to move into a different career? Is they're going to be something which works alongside it? I think we talk a lot about efficiencies in the sector, but we don't necessarily then actually really say, and that means that actually these job roles might not need to exist anymore, but these new job roles will be there and these people will need to be upskilled. So I think my concern is that we're not really having a frank and honest conversation about the realities of like what this might mean for the workforce yet. I know the Care Workers Charity obviously is definitely having this conversation. I know this came up a lot when we had the Care Workers Roundtable. People were really worried about their jobs, were more reassured when they knew more about AI and how it worked and kind of saw how it was going to be sort of a useful tool. But I think we're still very much in the early days of that conversation, and we need to have that a lot more loudly with more people. And then we talk about Ask Government. I think having that conversation and feeding it into government is going to be really important. I think we obviously would like guidance from the government. I agree with James on that one. I think realistically, we're probably several years at least off with having any clear legislation or regulation in the government around AI. It's not an issue just here, it's overseas as well, and people are sort of trying to understand more about impact before developing policy, which is reasonable. So I guess in terms of a more short-term ask for government, having some kind of sort of sandboxing way of like trialing best practice of AI in a way where you're not going to get penalized by the regulator necessarily if you're doing it safely and can demonstrate that, which then can feed into some of that policy development, I think could be a really nice way of the sector being enabled to try new things without fear of penalization, which could then hopefully lead to better regulation in the future once we actually know what works and what doesn't. Yeah, I think that's probably it.
Lovely, Katie, thank you. And I do remember co-workers raising issues about, you know, how it is going to affect my job. And I think, Ali, going back to what you said, it is, well, in my head, it should be more about freeing up time for care workers to actually spend it with people, providing care, support, companionship, doing activities, rather than, because as far as I'm concerned, no AI tech can replace that human connection and relationships. But for example, monitoring at night may reduce the number of people you will need on a night shift. And then what happens to those people that will potentially lose their jobs? I would, although, use the term reskill or just skill in a different direction rather than upskill, considering that they're just very different areas of work as well.
That's a fair call. Thanks, Carolina.
Absolutely agree. Alex?
Yes, I would like to say that, see, if we are introducing the artificial intelligence to the health and social care, I think that, you know, most of the things will be more transparent. I can tell you an example of that. So basically the thing is that most of the, see, in few care homes, they are using the MAR chart, and nowadays the advanced care homes are using the EMR. So if any discrepancy or anything to protecting the company, they can do some malpractices on the MAR chart because it's a paper one. But if you are using the EMR, it's an electronic system and it is saving all the details in background. I think James can understand because the Access Eye Care is one of the examples. I'm just talking about the eye care. So because we are in my home, we are using that system. So basically the thing is that if any discrepancy or anything, if you are adding a medication or if we are detecting the count or anything, everything is documented. So the malpractices or it will be more transparent. So there will be less chance for the malpractices, and all those steps will be very less if we are introducing the artificial intelligence. And it will be more transparent. And also in regarding if we are talking more about the artificial intelligence, and everyone concerns that the GDPR is a serious concern for everyone. But as per my knowledge, the artificial intelligence, actually, it's like a machine learning process. So in two ways, we can train the stuff. So one is the supervised learning. So supervised learning and unsupervised learning. So the first one is, if I'm telling an example of the supervised learning, so I can tell you an example like this. So teaching a kid how to cook. So a parent is literally teaching a kid how to cook in step by step. And the unsupervised means just letting him to the kitchen and just ask him to cook, and he will be learning it from the trial, error, everything. So in this case, so whenever we are, I don't know whether is there any particular AI for the health and social care sector. I think they are in the process of that. So whenever they are introducing that thing, so when we are doing the instructions should be supervised. So if the instructions are supervised by a human being, then I don't think that there is a concern for the GDPR is coming there, because see, the information we are giving only the artificial intelligence is having, because the training is given by the human being only. So when we are giving the training to the AI, so if it is a supervised one, and we can just opt out some particular thing, especially the personal data, personal details and all, if we are opting it out, there will not be a concern. I'm not a scientist, but I'm just telling my vision in this way. So I don't think that there is going to be a big issue with the GDPR. So this is the thing. So
Thank you very much, Alex. Very interesting. Caroline.
Yeah, so it's interesting to listen to everybody. I'm much more cynical about it all. And I would also really say, you know, there's so much we still don't know about it and what it's actually going to do to people. So, you know, some of the warnings that James said, or Katie as well, I think there's a lot of excitement around AI and how it's helping and how ChatGPT is helping us and so on. But actually, you know what, who's it actually going to benefit? How is it going to affect some of the relationships that people may have, especially when it's about caring? And when we had the Care Workers Roundtable, we did hear some concerns of the frontline care workers there who said, you know, I'm not so sure whether I'll be able to relax as much into the relationships I have with the people I care for if I feel like I'm being watched by this AI. And then it is an algorithm, it's not a person. So even if information sounds great and reasonable, it makes mistakes because it doesn't know, it can't contextualize, it doesn't have emotions. And what sometimes scares me a bit is when I hear people talking about it, not here, but generally, you know, I obviously talk about AI a lot to many different people who do actually maybe feel like it's something, a friend that they can really trust, and you know, it's great and it can take over all of this work and conversations and communications and things. I'm like, no, it's an algorithm. That's all it is. It's a thing. It's a technology. So I think we really need to be very careful and watch, because we don't know some of the risks we don't know about yet. They're only gonna, evolve. They might become, we might be able to see them in the future or not. So we will really also have to keep an eye on what does it do to people in care? How is it changing relationships or not? How is it really benefiting and who? It's not all about efficiency, right? It's about quality of life. It's about well-being. It's about people wanting to be in their jobs and people receiving the care that they need and deserve. So I would say, and I also want to say that, yes, the government can do a lot, but I think it's us, the people, who can do even more. There needs to be more democratic processes around this, because the government, they don't know as much about frontline care as frontline care workers. And it's them who will be able to see how this plays out in their everyday lives. So I would say, let's continue working on this collaborative project that we have embarked on and make sure that everybody's voice is in there. And as exciting as AI is, we also really have to watch the risks and benefits.
Thank you very much, Caroline. We have now Q&A and chat options open. So if anybody has any questions, please post them in there. I will keep an eye out to see if there are any. Ali.
I'm so glad Caroline went first there, because I was going to say and my toxic trait is my optimism and my caution to the wind in it. But the reason that I'm like that is because there's always a yang to your yin, and Caroline's the one that balances it out and would curb the enthusiasm. So I don't do stupid things, and I do have that. It is tempered back a bit. My wife's the same. She makes sure I behave and don't jump in headfirst into things, which is my toxic trait. I can't help it. I'm an internal optimist in that sense, and I just believe everything's good. So I don't have any concerns. That's for even just on this panel, you've got Caroline, Alex, James, who are pointing out what the dangers are, and I trust that they will be made apparent to me when the time is right, and it will tailor how I use AI. But until then, I'm just I'm just giddy by it. My long-term hope is, like James said, with data, it is data. It's all data, and we have billions and billions and billions of data points within the NHS, within social care, that's always evolving based on the time, based on the generation that we're in. And my hope is that one day it can be safely democratized and centralized to be used for moving forward into a predictive care model, and it adapts us from meeting someone's needs today and their wants and trying to give them a good quality of life, and adapting as we go to rather the AI, albeit you can't, as everyone has said, it's not going to be 100% accurate, but I certainly believe it'll be more accurate than any human being can predict what's going to happen in 6, 12, 18 months. I mean, you just go back 50 years and people predicted flying cars. We're not very good at it. But the AI can do a better job of mapping out someone's potential care pathway from a health perspective more than anything. And it allows us to adapt what our care plan would be to try and prolong predictions of maybe mobility issues or degenerative issues, and really slow that down with tailored activities or specialized care that can prevent certain things. And I think this preventative predictive model is what I hope long term will be how AI will be used, and it will allow us to put in someone's most simplest of background and history, and the AI with all of these data points can then tell us, here's what the next 6, 12, 18 months might look like if you did nothing today, and we can build from there. And that's what I think would really take quality of life to another level, is that we become preventative industry, not just meeting needs and trying to give people a good quality of life, but prevent them from getting sick and frail, and maybe slow down things like dementia as well, if we just know what to expect. That's what I hope for the long term. I think going back to what Katie said about the workforce, if you look in the programming world and the tech world, things like coders will evolve into who's the best prompt engineer, who can use the AI the best. And I think that's where the upskilling is going to be, or the reskilling in this sector is teaching people how to engage the AI properly to get the most out of it. It's a skill in itself. It's going to be an in-demand job in itself. And I think it was Katie as well who said about the data scientists, we're not going to get data scientists, and we're not going to get full engineers in coding to come and do it for us, but we can still use it. By learning the skills of prompt engineering and working with the AI, we can do the data ourselves. We can utilize the AI ourselves. We don't need to necessarily attract those who have done data science in university from leaving their, let's say, much more glamorous industry to come to us. It's given us that opportunity to do it ourselves, and it's not, I don't think it's, prompt engineering is necessarily a difficult skill that's certainly the next generation of people coming through they're going to know how to use AI anyway, and simply teaching them more fundamentals in how to prompt the AI is probably going to be something they want to do. You know, it's not necessarily something that we're forcing. So, you know, I go back to it. I think it's going to be a wonderful ride. I think it's going to revolutionize the sector. People like Caroline will make sure it does it properly. I just get to use it at the end, and that's, you know, that's all I'm excited about, really.
Thank you very much, Ali. And Daniel.
I just want to build on what Caroline and Ali and James and Alex and Katie just said, but take it one. I work in social care because I think, and getting a definition of what social care is really difficult. I work in social care because I think it's about helping people live as independently as possible according to their own environment and situation. Now, if people that we're working with, and this is why I like the program we're working on with Caroline and Katie on responsible use of AI, if people who are being supported, who we're caring for and supporting, can actually in some way use AI, be helping to support themselves in some way, not saying there's always room for everybody, but that's what excites me. If a person with a learning disability, for example, can be creating their own artwork, their own creativity by themselves, that's then in creating their independence for that person. And that's what I'm really looking forward to. One thing I'm really looking forward to is when AI really comes to work on driverless cars, because that will mean that everyone has the ability to go anywhere at any time, and that will equalize society. And that's one thing, one of my greater hopes for AI. And so I've got a bit of Ali in there, but I'm also saying, no, care work is important, and people will be able to use AI to live as independently as possible. That's my aspirational talk at this point.
Thank you very much. So obviously from us at the Care Workers Charity, we are very interested in the topic from the workforce point of view. We've worked with Caroline, Daniel and Katie on making sure that care workers have a voice in this conversation, and Alex obviously was there feeding into it. I think our main concern is that there won't be fair access to training, equity in training, really, that there will be a standard, this is how you train for using AI without considering generational differences, interest in it. And that's what I think we may really get stuck at, especially looking at workforce demographics. So that's something that needs to be really considered in terms of if we're going to make, in a way, because, you know, people employing care workers telling them you have to use it, it's making people do things they may not necessarily want to do. So giving them the equity of training, and also making sure that they have the right tools to do it. So care workers were complaining at the round table about having to use their personal devices for work, and how do they not necessarily feel comfortable using AI on their phones, or even data usage and cost of that. All those things have to be considered, because if it's part of their job, that shouldn't be a cost that care workers incur personally. On the more positive Ali side, so do we have like more cautious Caroline side and more reckless Ali side of things, let's say? So more on the Ali side of things, I think this is incredibly exciting to have tools that can just shorten the admin burden on the workforce. And I'm not just talking about workforce, people in direct care delivery, but also people in the office and all the operational issues and the number of compliance documents and everything else that you need to create. So I think that is incredibly exciting. And obviously, the use of technology like this goes well beyond just our sector. It has impact on the entire society. And whether we want it or not, it's here and we need to get on with it. And one of the reasons why we're working on those statements and putting them out there is so people can do it safer and well informed rather than it being done to them without much knowledge. Thank you very much for your time today. It's been incredibly useful and helpful to have this conversation. Like I mentioned earlier, this has been recorded. We're going to be posting it on our YouTube channel as soon as it's edited. If you could share AI tools, and Alex, I take your point, in terms of what they are useful for as well, a little snippet. We will share that with the video as well. Today, we're launching the statement from care workers on responsible use of AI in social care. So keep an eye out on that. Give us any feedback you may have. And yes, I would say, may the odds be in our favor with AI in the future. And hopefully it be more useful than terrifying and threatening. There you go. Thank you again to all the panelists for your time and have a lovely afternoon. Bye-bye, everybody.